I mean, to be honest, the whole idea around this was, for people on commutes, it'd be great for that, and because that's where I listen to a lot of my podcasts. I'll chuck it on for an hour when I'm doing a train journey or something like that.
Yeah, same when I'm driving. I do audiobooks, similar sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it's put paid to that, really, and the old COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I've got
snooking it.
I've got plenty of Audible credits going spare anyway. I've not used them.
Oh yeah, it reminds me actually. Alan Partridge has got an Audible series coming out, hasn't he?
Was he?
You seen that? Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
From the Oast House, which is his ramblings. Yeah, there was a freebie chucked out in June or something like that. And it was very, very funny. He kind of nailed it again. He kind of does different formats, doesn't he? What might be a chat show, might be like a one show type thing or whatever. But this is his attempt at podcasting, and yeah, it's very good. But the whole series comes out early September, I think, about 18 episodes.
Okay, let's have a look.
So I
I'm
don't know
kind
if
of
you're a Partridge fan at all.
Yeah, I'm a bit so with it. I think maybe at the time I wasn't so much, but when I've seen it back, I probably appreciate it a little bit more. But
Yeah, there's one where he's doing corporal punishment at the school, and he does a demo of it all, and it slows it down to slow motion. He's got this dummy, basically naked, like next to him, and he's got this massive shoe or whatever. He's whacking it on the backside, and it's flying across the sports hall. But it goes into slow mo, and he's doing commentary on what he's doing. And I honestly, man, I was in tears. I couldn't breathe when I was watching it. Oh, very good.
it's good
So,
too.
what's your comedy then? What kind of stuff do you watch, or listen to?
Uh, I mean, you've got to state the obvious, being
Well,
Peter from
I
Bolton.
was going to say Peter Kay, is it?
I get that everywhere. Yeah, well, I used to a lot anyway.
To get people saying, "Can you hear me now?"
Can you hear me now? Garlic bread and there's. I think if certain people from my old employer listen, they'll recognise cheesecake, because a lot of people tended to shout cheesecake at me. But I
What
mean, to
about as I
some
go out
people,
moist? As I go out moist.
yeah, it's like, "I got out moist. I've got out moist." But yeah, Peter Kay is cracking. But I'm a big fan of a lot of comedy. To be honest, a lot of comedians. Stand-up comedy's good. Anything like that, Live at the Apollo usually goes on the telly if I'm choosing it.
So, have you seen Peter Kay at all then?
Yeah, yeah.
Live?
I've seen him a few times at Manchester Arena. I remember years ago getting tickets for one of his tours and doing the bad thing of buying them and then selling them. But I think actually I did get double booked. I think it was like Christmas due or something. But yeah, I was probably about, I don't know, 19, 20 or something at the time. And I wasn't complaining about the extra cash.
No, no. But looking back, you probably would have minded seeing him, really.
Yeah, yeah. As I say, we did go a couple of times when he's been in Manchester, but he does smaller gigs as well around here. When he's getting ready for a tour, although he's obviously gone quiet for a long, long time. He does smaller gigs around like local theatres and that kind of stuff.
I did come up to the when they did the Phoenix Nights live.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I got a ticket for that, and came up. I was supposed to be seeing it with my wife,
I think I remember you
and
telling me this actually once.
yeah, it didn't happen. It was just me in the end, and it was very, very funny night.
It's kind of weird humour in it that if you're from maybe overseas or even just different areas, it probably doesn't mean quite so much. But it's good. It's good comedy because it's dead relatable to your average northern person, I
Good
guess.
old Northern humour, innit? I mean, the Phoenix Nights series is effectively growing up, innit? And that nightlife. Does it? It still exists, doesn't it? In a smaller way, I think, up north.
Oh yeah, 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 and that's what it's kind of relatable. It's your average kind of, I mean, not so much now, but wedding dues and labour clubs and all that kind of stuff. It's all alive and well, especially where Phoenix Nights is set in St Greg's in Farworth.
Yeah, I don't know that area. That's where the actual Phoenix Nights club is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Farnworth. It's called St Gregory's. I've been in there a couple of times for a few dues, and it's exactly like you'd see it on TV.
So is it actually filmed then inside it? So
Yeah.
right, the whole that's external and internal. They've not mocked anything up
No,
for the
it's the same.
interior shots.
It's the same, and it's one of those programs because it's filmed around where I live. Same with Car Share. All a lot of the programs that he does are all filmed. It's funny. We just it's one of those where you're watching it and you're like, I know where he is. I know where he is. I know that. And then you see all the continuity errors because he's driving down one road, and then next scene he's driving down one that's 10 miles away.
How's he managed that?
Yeah, but
Brilliant. Yeah, no, yeah, it was a great night when I came up. My favourite, one of my favourite characters from that is Clinton Baptiste.
yeah, I've seen you retweet or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
just weird characters that he comes up with, isn't
yeah. It's like, yeah, all right.
it?
When he comes on, he's got a massive build up anyway, like kind of from the mountains of so and so and the mists of this, and he goes, yeah, all right. As he gets on stage, and it cracks me up every time. It's pathetic, really, isn't it? But it does.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, there's some great characters in that, and they've sort of spun off into other things as well, haven't they?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, Paddy McGuinness has obviously spun off into various other bits and pieces from the back of that, but
Yeah, he's done all right out of it. I wouldn't say he's the comedy genius of the duo there. Would you?
oh no. And Dave Spikey ran a few tours after it as well, and
I've
there's
seen
loads.
Dave Spikey down in London. Actually, that was very good. It's
Yeah.
very good. It was on about the oh, I get this wrong every time. It's the RSPCA up in Bury.
Right.
What is it? Bury, whichever it is, and
Yeah.
Bury. Was it Bury Animals? Something like that. It's kind of I'll have to find out the actual photograph, but yeah, it's that kind of thing he works on. Of course,
Yeah.
he was a classic presenter of Bullseye at one time as well.
Was he really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
the remake after Jimbo, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's a quality Northern program, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole era of that. It's all set around that, isn't it? That kind of era. Oh, Dave Spikey, there was a couple of scenes in Phoenix Nights which always sticks, and every time they pop up on social media or whatever, it always cracks me up where he's doing two scenes where he's ended up. I think he's left the Phoenix Club at this point, and he's trying to sell stuff in a supermarket by singing. And he's
Oh
singing,
yeah, your bin bags.
yeah, come and get your black bin bags, long and black and slender." And then there's another one for corned beef with chips or with salad. It's corned beef, even
Oh
butter.
yeah.
It's corned beef.
I'll tell you the one that always gets me is the when he does the real Slim Shady.
Yeah,
And he's going, "Will you please stand up? Please stand up." And there's the audience of old dears there. And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? And some of them stand up, don't they? And the old bit where he's doing the 45 with his hands for brimful of Asher on the 45. But the classic is when he's off his head, isn't he? And he, bring the moon to me.
yeah.
My teeth, my teeth.
He does a good Jerry the Berry as well.
Yeah.
Jerry the Berry's a good one. But yeah, it's funny.
Oh,
The audience in those sort of things, they're legit local people who live around there. My wife's grab bar, when she was alive, lived just up the road, and a few of her mates were in it. They just pull people in off the street literally and sit there, do daft
I can
stuff.
imagine the old dears standing up for that Slim Shady thing. That's probably a legit thing, isn't it? Probably weren't even told to do that.
I'm sure.
They're just
I'm
standing
sure.
up. Anyway, Peter Egerton,
Yes,
thanks ever so much for joining me today on the Just a Couple of Jerks podcast, mate.
my pleasure. Thank you for inviting.
And we've completely lost the whole American audience there.
Yep.
Not that there is an American audience, but whatever, they didn't have a clue as to what we were talking about.
I'm sure, but look it up. Americans seem to appreciate some of the British humour. It's not
Yeah.
Monty Python, but there's value.
It's better than Monty Python because Monty Python isn't funny.
Oh, controversial.
Yeah. Yes. Never really got me Monty Python, actually. Young ones, yeah. But I suppose that's probably age, isn't it? It's the right age for me at the time. Sort
Yeah.
of 12, 13, and it's alternative comedy kicking in. But Monty Python, I was always like, mm. Go on. So what else? What's your comedy favourites then, Pete?
Comedy favourites. So, I mean, Peter Kay obviously has to go with a mention, but I used to like, Lee Evans quite a lot as a kid. I used to watch a lot. I used to have like cassette videos, VHS videos with Lee Evans I think he travelled as well. He did a lot of some films and stuff.
I think, yeah, I saw him in that one with the Mousetrap.
Yeah, he did a few US films where he was like putting on a US accent and stuff. But I used to watch a lot of Lee Evans as a kid and Jack D. I used to watching Jack D when he was coming onto the scene. Uh, Lee Mack I remember him doing a program years ago called Gas on
I've
UK
never heard of
TV.
that.
There's a program ages ago called Gas, and it was just like I guess it's like Live at the Apollo that it is now. They just, he's presenter and he gets a few people on stage, does a bit of a, compare, just like your average comedy night, to be honest. I remember watching that as a kid. That were great. I think Peter Kay was on that, in fact, if I remember, doing his crap pop jokes, cheap pop.
The first time I saw Peter Kay was on, I think it was the Sunday Show it was called,
Okay, yeah.
which was on a Sunday, funnily enough. I think it was I'm sure it was the Sunday Show. But ultimately, he was on. He says if it's got to be entertainment or something like that. He's just talking about how to be a light entertainer.
Yeah.
That was the first time I'd really heard of him. But Lee Evans. I think Lee Evans actually was quite big in the States at one point because of the films.
Yeah, he seemed to do all right, didn't he? And he did a lot of stand up. And he's if you don't know him, he's quite an energetic comedian. He's very
Sweats a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he was an ex-boxer, so he was a pretty fit fella anyway. But he was quite active on stage, and it's kind of visual comedy as well as stand-up and observational comedy. But yeah, he went over films and stuff.
Yeah, he's like Rowan Atkinson on speed, effectively, isn't he? He's kind of just frenetic and a bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Rowan Atkinson there. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Rowan Atkinson. I remember watching a lot of kind of trying to think of them now. So we used not what's it called, Blackadder. I used to watch some of Blackadder when I was a kid. But even like Mr. Bean, my kids are really, really into Mr. Bean now.
Are they?
Yeah, there's a full animated series nowadays, but you still get like the proper Mr. Bean on every now and then. My kids love it. I can watch
Yeah,
it.
I never got into it. I remember I saw the first one where he was cheating on an exam, and I think Ben Elton co-wrote that with him.
Yeah.
But I never got into the series.
Did he do? Might be getting my shows mixed up now. Was he not the 9 o'clock news as well?
Yeah, he did that. Yeah. Now that was something I used to watch with my mum on whatever Sunday night or whatever, and some of that got a bit risky. And as a kid, you were like, "Oh, "What's going on?" But yeah, that was him, Mel Smith, Griff Rhys-Jones, and Pamela Stevenson.
Okay,
Who
that's.
married Billy Connolly.
Yeah, I was going to say that's Billy Connolly's other half, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to like shows like that. Not the 9 o'clock news. The Fast Show was kind of my, I guess, teenage years to some extent. I think younger teens. The Fast Show in the UK.
It's not the 9 o'clock news. I mean, that would have been you'd have been quite young when that was on.
Yeah, I think I watched some of the reruns when I was a bit, when they were on. But yeah, I know it. I like that kind of comedy. Say Fast Show. Paul Whitehouse is great. Harry Enfield.
I saw them live actually. They did a tour recently. Well, I say recently. It's probably about 10 years or so ago now. And me and a mate went, not expecting anything at all because we were big fans of the original ones, like the Smashy and Nicey shows
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
nice.
Yeah, and the newer series went down okay, but it was like not too sure. But live, it was brilliant. They because they didn't have any restrictions really, and they were quite rude at times and things like that. And it was a lot better than we expected. And they tapped into the whole U tree thing with Smashy and Nicey, so that was quite funny. But
Yeah, forgot about that.
Fast Show's quality. Actually,
Yeah,
it's big fan of that.
yeah. There was loads of stuff that I remember. Obviously, you mentioned the young ones as Bottom, which was kind of spin-off almost, I suppose. Rick Mayall and Ade Edmondson.
I could not believe I watched an episode of Bottom. This is last year, right? And I'd never seen it before.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, "What the hell? I've never seen this one." And it was the last ever episode.
Wow.
And I said to a mate, "This is the guy I saw Harry and Paul with. I've just watched an episode of Bottom that I've never ever seen." He was like, "No way, come off it." I said, no, seriously, I've never seen this. I was in absolute tears through the whole thing. And when I went to see him, I said, pop this on. And he said, oh, I've never seen this one.
Wow.
It was like, what the hell happened? We completely missed the whole episode. But that's a quality series. That we saw them live actually in Sunderland
Yeah,
as students.
I remember you.
Um,
Sunderland. I remember you telling me that once upon a time.
yeah, it was so well done. It's choreographed to a T. You know, the bit where he's running and kicking in between the legs, stuff like that. You know, it just looked like he was doing it. They were masters of that kind of slapstick and violent comedy kind of thing.
Yeah, frying
You
pan
know,
in the face. It's all that. It's just silly, isn't it? But it's funny.
but you know, Rick Mel is a legend, isn't he? Really, and like I watched some of his stuff recently, like Bottom or whatever, and it's just like you can't compare him to anyone.
Yeah,
Really, he was kind of out there on his own, but absolutely mental.
he was really good. I remember when I read that he died. For those, like, hopefully that's not news to too many people. I It's weird. I mean, I remember where I was weirdly that when I read it, I was stood at not Trafford, Stafford train station, waiting for a train back home, and I read it on my phone. It's just shocking because he was dead young as well, comparatively, really.
Yeah, but he'd survived a really horrific accident, hadn't he? About 20 years before.
Yeah, I
Did you
don't
know
remember.
that he had a quad bike crash?
Okay, that kind of vaguely rings familiar, but I don't know if I'm getting mixed up with Ozzy Osbourne.
Right, yeah, no, I think this was late 90s, and he'd lived on a farm, and he'd gone out on the quad bike, and effectively this thing landed on him, gone over some bumps or whatever, and he was in hospital, and he was lucky to survive. I think he died for so long, or you know that kind of thing where he died, but they revived him or whatever. So he did this comedy thing about saying he was like Jesus and stuff like that because he'd come back from the dead, which typical Rick Mel fashion. But he didn't recover from it fully. He had kind of epileptic fits and stuff like that after the accident. So
Jeez.
he was on a lot of medication, and that's contributed towards his death, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, welcome to the Happy Podcast. Jeez.
Yeah. Let's get back to the comedy. But no, I know Ed Edmondson because they kind of split around that time or just after because Ed Edmondson said he couldn't work with him in the same way. I think his personality changed or whatever. But he was he was a little bit slower, you know, to do things and stuff like that. But in his prime, it's unbelievable. I mean, did you ever watch Filthy Rich and Cat Flap?
I don't think I did. No, no, doesn't ring a bell, that one.
So that is my favourite. So they did that after the Young Ones, right?
Right.
So it's Nigel Planer's in it as well.
Yeah.
It's Rick Mail and Ade Edmondson, and they're kind of Rick Mail is like a completely pathetic TV celebrity who's not really a celeb, but is a wannabe type.
Okay.
Um, Ade Edmondson's Eddie, his because the Rick and Eddie again,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
is his bodyguard, and then Nigel Planer is filthy because it's Filthy Rich and Cat Flap. Eddie Cat Flaps Ed Edmonton. So yeah, he's filthy, and he's the manager who obviously just like takes all the, or their agent takes all the cuts. Not that they make any money anyway, sort of thing. And he's booking him on completely useless things. But they go out. Rick and Eddie go out on a bit of a lager frenzy. Um, to hippos and all these kind of. They're only popping out for one little drink. They're not supposed to go out because Rick's gonna read the newspapers on TVM with Ann Diamond the next morning.
yeah.
So they're not allowed to.
Lovely.
No drinks, nothing, because you know what will happen, sort of thing. Next thing you know, it's lager frenzy and it's gone mental. So he does read the news, but in a bit of a state. So
I have to look that one up. I don't know what year that would be, because even the young ones is probably a little bit early for me, but I seem to, remember watching it.
yeah, so it kind of took the mick a bit out of light entertainment. So there's little knocks at Brucey and Tarby and all those kind of people
Yeah.
for being useless, and he's making out that he's this great showbiz man who, you know, is that the public love him, but no
Sounds a
one
bit
does,
Alan
and no one.
Partridge.
There's a bit of that. It's a bit more. It's a bit more Rick Mail style though. So
Yeah, yeah, a bit
check
silly.
check it out. Check it out. You can probably they're probably available to stream on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah,
But
available
check
at
them
your
out.
favourite retailer.
So anyway, Pete, we better talk about yourself. We're
Himself.
20 minutes in, and we're just chatting about comedy, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Pete. So yeah, well, you're an EM MVP, and you have been for a little while now. So tell me all about that. What's that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I'll explain for the audience because I know full well that you know full well. Being in the same position. However, I'm three or third year in as an enterprise mobility MVP, which fits in the category of what is now Microsoft Endpoint Manager, so config manager and Intune in simple terms. So yeah, it's obviously an award that Microsoft give out for community contributions, shall we say. So I do bits of speaking at various bits of conferences. Obviously, Windows Management User Group is probably where I got started out doing any of this kind of contributions. I also do a bit of blogging as and when I can make the time for that, which seems to be rarer and rarer now, but we try. So yeah, I mean, Windows Management User Group, we've been ticking over with that one. Certainly from my point of view, I know a few others like Robert Marshall and a few others prior have been running with that now for probably, I don't know, 14, 13 years, something like that.
Well, I remember there was a 10th anniversary, wasn't there? And I
Yeah.
can't remember when that was now. It is a
Well, we
good
did
2 or 3 years ago, isn't it? Yeah.
we did that at Paddington in Microsoft, I remember.
Really?
Yeah. And we can't use that place for a long time now. We've been using Reactor for a while in London.
Yeah. And that hotel in between as well.
Yeah, a lot of different places actually. We've been, Reading, TVP, and different places around London. But yeah, I've been doing that for 7 years or so.
Yeah. Was WMUG your first exposure to presenting in front of people then?
Yeah, I suppose so. It kind of aligned with moving jobs or starting a different type of job from working in internal IT for a long time to moving into consultancy, really. So I kind of took the decision, all right, I want to get involved and, to better myself to some extent and see what I can learn. And for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, I learned more in, community events than any kind of training course or any kind of training that an employer generally would offer. Not that they're, of no use, but just getting out there, speaking to people, listening to people, getting the honest views and getting the real world situation off of people and is so valuable. That's helped me a huge amount. And then it just kind of, I never set out to be a speaker or even a blogger, although I'd done little bits of writing here and there. It just kind of progressed where we had, the site was a little bit quiet. So I said, okay, I'll write a few blogs. And then that ticked over and I kind of branched off a few years ago with my own little blog. And yeah, it just carries on rolling. I end up doing a bit of speaking sessions and then that rolls into, okay, well, maybe I'll have a go at doing a conference of some kind. So I've done a few of those now. And yeah, it just rolls on.
Yeah, I think you poured yourself into conferences more than I have for sure. So, um, I mean, I've not been to Ignite, for example, or MMS or anything like that. I've kind of been local user groups, really. MMS this year was going to be my first taster to that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember actually you were speaking, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously,
somehow.
it's all down the pan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's my kiosk presentation scuppered.
Oh dear.
I'll have to repurpose it for something else. Yeah. Well, they missed out. So, I mean, we presented together, didn't we? We did Blinky lights and Raspberry Pis, Windows 10. That was good.
Yeah, we've done a few little bits and pieces, haven't we? The Blinky Lights one stands out because it was, I don't know, a bit different
Different.
and a bit of a
Yeah.
car crash to some extent.
Yeah, we had Phil Wilcox come in and going, really looking forward to this. And I was thinking, don't worry, don't build your hopes up, mate.
Yeah, I think this just for I guess context for anyone who does listen is I think it was around the time Windows 10 was coming out and then there was a Windows 10 IoT edition and we were sticking it on a Raspberry Pi on a micro SD card, and then because you've obviously done a load of Raspberry Pi stuff in the past, and I don't know if you still do. I can't quite remember, but um, it was like, okay, well, I've got a Raspberry Pi, and you know what you're doing. You've got your breadboard, and you've got your own cables and bits and pieces. So let's have a go and just see what we can do with it. It was interesting, I suppose, but yeah,
Different, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah.
people sat there watching me flash them a red, green, and amber.
Well, I went to a Linux meetup today
Did you
on
really?
yeah, yeah,
Get you?
online. So still keeping it real,
Yeah,
keeping it open source and all that. But Pi wise, I mean, I was doing code clubs and stuff like that, and big events as well, with the Sonic Pi music coding app at
yeah,
the time, which tied in with like my third son and my daughter's kind of age where they kind of got keen on all that.
yeah,
They start off with things like Scratch,
yeah,
and visual coding and all this, but that their interest kind of waned, and the Raspberry Jam that we were going to kind of didn't fall apart, but there was a change that caused us to kind of it didn't happen as much. But so I've not I still kind of keep in touch with the people, but the
yeah.
events don't happen. But yeah, I joined. In fact, the guy doing the Linux event used to run the Pi jams with us, so I popped along to learn about something called Mattermost.
Mattermost. I don't know that. I've not heard of
No, I didn't have a clue what was going on. Um,
that. Just sit there.
but I
Yeah.
won a prize! Yay!
Oh, that's worth it then, isn't it?
Yeah, I won a license to JetBrains.
Oh, okay. I've got news for you though. You get that free with your MVP perks.
Right, right. Let me email Brian and tell him I don't need it.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen that in the list.
Yeah,
You get a
right.
few perks if you're not aware as an MVP, and I think that's some vendors offer their products, and I think that's one of them. If I'm up to
Is
date.
it? I don't even know what JetBrains is.
I think it's for development purposes predominantly, but it's
It
like a
is.
database type service, isn't it? I think.
I have no idea, but I have a license. So there you go, and I won a prize, so that's very exciting today. That was made my day.
Yeah, you mentioned the Pi thing in Sonic Pi. I know that you're named in the credits on Sonic Pi.
I am.
I know that. And my son, or should I say, Father Christmas got him a pie for Christmas. Gone. And he's had a bit of a dabble with Sonic Pi. He kind of likes the idea of it, and then, as you say, the interest wanes, but he'll come back around to it at some
Mm.
point, I'm sure. And
Yeah, just fire up the info bit and say I know him.
I know him. Yeah, I've
That
done
that
that.
that,
I know
that
you
name
had.
there.
Didn't you have Sam on this as well? Didn't he do one of these sessions too with you?
Yes, yes,
So
yeah,
there you go.
definitely. And you know, portable Sonic Pi. That's my thing. Creating a portable app for it, which really, I mean, I used to do the coding bit. I really got into it at one point where had my headphones on and I'd just be coding for like 2 hours doing real time mixing effectively, just changing lines of code and swapping it out. It's great fun.
Nice.
Yeah, it used to fall apart at times, but you could just sit there and just sort of zone out on it and quite easily fill in a huge block of time, which, to be honest, during the COVID period is probably something I should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're quiet, then yeah.
Well, it's that thing, and it's just, as we said earlier, sat in the house, something different, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how that changed what people do and, changed habits. Even like myself, I've not stopped working. I've carried on working all through. It's been particularly busy, if anything. But because at certain times you can't really go anywhere or do what you would normally do of a weekend or an evening or whatever, you end up just doing other things. Like I forgot I even had this, whatever, so I'll get it out. I've got like a turbo trainer. I know you do a bit of cycling, or you have done. So I've got a turbo trainer stashed away in the shed somewhere. So that came out, and I got a bit of cycling in the garden, just static cycling, as it were.
Right. So there's that Zwift app that a lot of people tap into. So you kind of have it on
Yeah,
handlebar or whatever, and you use real time or racing or whatever. You can have a map in front of you, or people compete
yeah.
with them.
I'm not sure I'm fit enough for that.
No, no. Well, to be honest, I've hardly been out. It's the perfect time to be doing it, but my bike's been in for repair, and to the local repair shop, and the guy there, I've known him for years, and he's kind of going, you know, it's mental at the minute for bikes. It's the new flower, the new toilet roll.
Well,
Seriously, yeah.
I don't have
He's
issues with that.
no, no, he'd be all right. But he was saying, like for him, he's all about repairs. So I managed to get it turned around in 2 weeks. But I think he's got like 100 odd bikes that he's
Jeez,
repairing. But he was saying he can't get the parts. Soon he won't be able to get the parts. So Shimano, the factories are closed down,
really?
and it takes them 3 months or something. He was saying to ship stuff over. So where at the minute he's just trying to get as many parts as he can because people want repairs, and he's struggling with things. If he can get inner tubes off someone, he'll buy a bunch. Where he would normally buy 100, he's trying to buy 500 to 1,000 all in one go. And he said at some point that'll all collapse because there'll be no parts to buy.
Yeah,
But everyone's. I mean, when I turned up to pick it up, it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 in the morning. Sorry, just opened. And I went in to get it, and I turned around, and there's about 6 or 7 people queuing up down the road with some with like tires in their hands, whatever. They're all waiting to come in.
yeah. You're London as well, aren't you? So I guess there's a lot more people certainly, and I guess there's quite a few cyclists on the road. So I guess it's as bad as anywhere. Yeah, I've had the same up here. I'm trying to get my son a bike and really struggled. I did manage to get one in the end, but it was just timing that he'd pretty much outgrown what he had, and it was getting a bit silly. Looks like he's riding a clown's bike sort of thing. So yeah, I managed to get him sorted out, but there's a bike shop local at where I live. It's just on the edge of the West Pennine Moors, so there's a lot of mountain bikers, and there's some decent roads around here as well. Because I'm fairly close to Manchester, which is like national cycling centre, I think, around here.
Yeah, it's a bit hillier as well. Around.
Yeah, because they do some events from time to time, and they do Ironman UK, one of the main stages for Ironman around here. So there's a lot of cycling and running and all that kind of stuff.
I came up for the Tour de Yorkshire last year, second time of doing it, and geez, it absolutely killed me. So we went round North Yorkshire towards Harrogate, Pateley Bridge. Do you know Pateley Bridge?
I don't know it, but I remember you doing this at the time.
It was great because we got to Pateley Bridge. You kind of going. We were going up towards Harrogate from Leeds, and then kind of came back west. Kind of just a circle, effectively.
Yeah,
Through Pateley Bridge, you drop into Pateley Bridge, but I knew there's a massive hill coming out of it, like 20 odd percent. And it goes on for a good mile and a bit. I didn't have the legs for it. But anyway, we dropped down, and I was behind someone who just couldn't get round them. I was trying to get round them to get the speed up because I knew this uphill was going to happen.
yeah,
But anyway, you got to the bottom, and there was like a thing saying, um, rest station or whatever. It's like, oh, get a break here, great. So the minute you're revving up to get up this hill, and you suddenly go, right, actually, I'll go and take a break, get some cakes. We pulled in, and they had pork pies. Brilliant
what
pork pies. That's another
proper?
Peter Kay, wasn't it? Pork pies.
Yeah,
And I said to him, I said, well, you're in Yorkshire, don't you? When the on the cycling event, you got pork pies up for grabs. I said, normally
like
it's like
sausage.
Haribos and cakes and brilliant. I was absolutely stuffed by the time I got out. It's
Yeah,
like, right, plod onto that hill. Oh, get off and push. Forget it. I've had enough.
yeah. I saw a friend of mine the other day on. I think it was on my Facebook or some lady that I used to work with. Her husband had done the. Is it I think it's called the Roses Trail or something. And they basically go cross country, so across England from Morecambe in
Oh,
northwest
yeah.
over to Bridlington.
Is that the Transpennine Trail, is it?
It's pretty much is Transpennine, yeah, but there's a name for it. There's a marked out trail, and these two lads, it was this lady's husband and his brother. They did it in one day, and it's 170 miles.
I was going to say, geez, it's normally like a 3-dayer, isn't it?
Yeah, there's some going. Yeah,
170. Is that traffic free the whole way then, is it? One of those?
I think pretty much. Yeah, it's fairly off road with routes, but yeah, there is obviously some roads involved. Need to probably up my game on cycling. I've done a little bit in the past, but my brother shadows me on that. He did John O'Groats to Land's End once,
Or did he?
some years ago. Yeah, when he was in the Air Force. He was living up Scotland, so it wasn't actually a million miles. The starting point, anyway. He was in Lossiemouth.
Yeah, I think they do that in about 10 days. That's about 1,000 miles, isn't it? Just over.
Yeah, he did it. It's about 10 days he did it in same. So yeah, it's about 100 mile a day average. Some more, some less. Some going that.
That's pretty decent. I mean, I've like I say, I've hardly been out during lockdown. I started picking it up again. So my second boy's got into cycling. I have to be quiet. He's got his birthday coming up, and I've got him a bike. Well, not me and the wife, and yeah. So he'll be out. So he's kind of. I took him up in the car this hill in Kent, and the little pimples compared to the ones in Yorkshire. The ones in Yorkshire are just ridiculous. Round Home Firth way, where they used to go down in baths on Last of the Summer Wine.
Yeah, I've driven through that a few times.
Jeez, that's a bit hilly. But anyway, so there's Toys Hill, it's called, in Kent. It's where they all go on a Sunday. And we went, and honestly, my car was falling apart a few weeks ago, but it was struggling to get up this hill, and it's like, I'm going mental. And I was like, I had cars behind me, and I was thinking, this engine's going to pop any second now. But I sort of got halfway up, and it got really steep, and I went, I've actually been up this one myself. And I remember getting up there, it's tough as anything. It's very steep right at the end, and he's like, I've got to go and do this. I said, not with me, you're not. It's like I'm struggling in the car. I'm getting too old for these kind of stupid hill climbs, and that just it doesn't interest me. The main thing is I don't mind a quick, ramble around the place on a bike. I've never been a fan of the hills, but there's too much weight on me ultimately for that sort of thing. If I was down at 60 kg, I'd be all right. I'd be flying up the damn thing. But
There's no weight on you at all, surely.
yeah, a little bit popped on, a little bit more popped on.
I've not
Over
seen
the
you for a
last
few
few.
months, I suppose. Probably
Oh,
January last time I saw you.
Jesus, man, but I'm popping buttons on the jeans and everything at the minute.
Well, that's it. You've got a good excuse, so we're all the same. Staying at home.
Larding it up, aren't we?
Yeah, I've certainly
Perfect
not been.
opportunity. Sit around and blame lockdown. Yeah, yeah. So, Peter, actually, we've not asked you anything about your past. So I want to find out about when you were younger. I ask a lot of people this, right?
Yeah.
Was IT what you wanted to do? Is it, or did you have the other things that you wanted as a kid? Footballer, whatever.
It depends, kind of. So, I was as a younger kid. I mean, computers just weren't around. Certainly, I think at school, and there's a Boltonian way of saying school with two syllables.
School.
Well, yeah. So
I'm trying to learn it now.
it's like off topic. I once had someone test me when I said I was from Bolton. He asked me to say school, and when I said it in two syllables, he believed me instead of school. But yeah, I digress. Yeah, there wasn't really computers around as a kid. There was
Really?
there was one in the school, and that was it. And I never, they never really get to use it. But when I got to age, I'm trying to think now, when I was probably about 10, something like that, my dad decided. Do you remember Loot, the magazine Loot?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I was trying to remember the name of that the other month. Yeah, because we're on about when you moved to London back in the 90s, you had to look through a newspaper every day to find rent properties.
Yeah, yeah,
And Loot was the one I said it was like a yellow
that's
yellow
right.
newspaper. Yeah, Loot. You're right. That
Basically like a
that
free
was the one.
listings paper,
Yeah,
like a free
yeah.
advertisements paper.
People used to sell stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, my dad got this wise idea years ago that computers were going to be something. They were going to, they were the next thing.
It's
And
like a
lo and behold,
profit.
he was probably right. So he decided, with completely no idea of anything about computers, he found this computer in Loot locally, and it was an IBM PS2, like an
Oh, Jesus
286.
Christ.
He bought this with a monochrome screen. And I went picking it up with him local, plugged it home and looked at it. No idea what to do with it. So I got that about,
Doorstop.
yeah, pretty much. We've still got it somewhere. I think it's in my mum and dad's loft somewhere. Um, it's probably
Was it
worth
running the
it.
OS Warp or whatever it was called?
OS2 Warp. OS Warp. No, this was just on DOS. I think it was on DOS 5.
Right.
Yeah, no idea what to do with it at the time. In fact, I think it might have had Lotus 123 on it or something like that.
Do you know what? Lotus 123 was my first exposure to fonts. Funnily enough,
The novel idea of fonts, yeah, it seemed crazy.
fonts. So the guy we were living with brought home Lotus 123 from his work, which included WYSIWYG.
WYSIWYG, yeah. What you see is what you
WYSIWYG, yeah, and it was like this has got fonts, and we used to make. It's quite sad. We used to make little stickers for videotapes, and because it had fonts, we used to do widescreen. But we'd start in the middle with little fonts and then go big by the end. So the film would have been in widescreen. Brilliant.
get.
That's all we used Lotus 123 for.
Yeah, I mean, we had no idea what to do with it at the time. It was just like, there you go, there's a computer. Knock yourself out. And I don't know whether he had ideas of using it for what he was doing. I think my dad's one of these guys that's had like 100 jobs or something. And I think he was probably a driving instructor at the time. That was the kind of main job he had as through my childhood, at least, or most of it. Whether he was going to use it for something like that, I don't know. But I just spent hours sitting in front of it typing things in. So I'm pretty good at DOS and command prompt now. I can still remember a lot of old stuff, but I remember like there was something called MCI mail on it, and I was intrigued. And obviously, you can't just Google it then, because quite simply, Google didn't exist, and there wasn't internet that you could connect to. Certainly off that. So yeah, he went and asked someone at the local college, and they told him it was like email. It was just a completely novel concept and idea for us. So yeah, what I ended up doing, I think a couple of years later, my dad had enrolled at the local uni as a sort of mature student, and he used to take me down there with him. He got permission to do it because they have like 24-hour or open late computer rooms, and you could go in and do your work. So he got permission to take me with him, and I'd just sit at the side of him on a computer, signed in under his login, and just whatever, get access to the internet and just browse whatever I was
Thought
looking
this
at.
is the future.
Yeah, just the whole concept of email was just mental at the time. It's just crazy. So yeah, I learned from there really. I just messed about with them. So by the time I was at secondary school, then I was probably a little bit ahead of most people because of that exposure, just messing around with them. We had like, I think probably that's PC. Before that, I've got an older brother who's 3.5, 4 years older than me. Uh, he had a Commodore 64. I didn't really get a lot of use out of that, certainly because it was his and not mine. So you've no chance with an older brother. But I do remember, shoving cassettes in it and playing Dizzy and all these kind of things.
That was mine. Commodore 64. I had that classic. Pit Stop. It's a good Formula One driving game. Pit Stop 2, I think. Split screen.
Yeah, not that we ever use any of the kind of proper computing bits on it where you could write a little bit of code and stuff. 20 go to 10 and write your name all over the screen, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, even like I found out through this podcast, through Les Pounder, who was on weeks ago now, that it had GPIO pins in the Commodore 64 that you could tap into, same as like a Raspberry Pi has. I was like,
Really?
really? Jeez. Yeah, obviously, I think it must have been internal, obviously, but I was like, maybe not. I don't know. I never really looked for that. I just shoved the joystick in.
Joystick, yeah.
If it had a joystick, I think it did, and then pop the cassette in.
Yeah, go and play
Off
Daily
you go.
Thompson's Decathlon.
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah.
Used to take all the tapes up to my mate's house, and we'd tape to tape them all. I did have it's obviously illegal, but there you go. I had a tape to tape system which had a slight drop in the second generation tape, so it wouldn't play. It wouldn't recognise it. It just didn't pick it up and actually play the game. So I was like, all right. So I took it up to my mate Dom up the road, who produced just a couple of jerks images, banners, logos, all that. So shout out to Dom. He
Nice.
also gave me a load of Commodore 64 games, which I just copied
Quality.
tape to tape. Yeah, and his tape to tape deck worked a treat. Bring them back, play them, job done. Hire them out from the video store, copy them.
Yeah, forgot about that. You could rent them, couldn't you?
Rent them, yeah.
Forgot about that.
You could even take them back in those days. Oh no, my mate's bought me that. I've already got it.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
feels like a different time, doesn't it? It feels such a long time ago, really.
Jeez, break the seal on it these days. That's it, innit? I don't. Can you take? I mean, I don't even buy games anymore. I don't even know if you can take them back, even if the seal's broken. Is that it? You can't take it back. But if it's not broken, you
I
can take it
should
back.
imagine so. There's a security seal on it, but I think, to be honest, Paul, we're both showing our age. I think you pretty much download and stream them now. You don't buy them in physical format.
Do you? I've got no idea. I don't. I don't really do games anymore. I kind of stopped um,
Yeah,
after my addiction kicked in. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no. Amiga was my thing. Back at uni, that was the one we were playing. Mortal Kombat and Cannon Fodder, all this stuff.
yeah.
And then PCs kicked in, and the next thing you know, I'd be programming Paradox databases.
Paradox, jeez. I didn't do Paradox. I started with, I think at college they had us doing a bit of Delphi, um,
Oh yeah,
and I did
Borland, is it? Is that another one?
Bolton Delphi.
Borland Delphi or something? Was that the one?
That was it. That's what I did a bit at college. Obviously, I did a bit of basic, if you can, call that programming. I suppose did a bit of that batch programming, and I think when I did some university stuff, and I did like a bit of C plus plus there, a few little bits and bats. I've never really been in a coder in any kind of way, shape, or form, but I've done bits enough to be a little bit dangerous, I suppose.
So what was your thing at uni then? Was it some kind of computing based course that you were?
Well, yeah, I never went to uni proper. I went to college after school, did my A levels, and decided I didn't want to go to uni, so I took an apprenticeship. So I went straight into work, but I managed to get on a modern apprenticeship, as it was called at the time. In fact, I found my certificates for that the other day. I was cleaning some drawers out.
Get
Um,
them framed.
yeah, so I'm a modern apprentice. Look what happens. It's a good course. It works. So yeah, I did
It's
that.
the word modern, mate. It's kept following you through.
Yeah,
Modern management and all that.
20 years ago now.
What is
Um,
it now then? A newer modern apprentice, is it, or
I have no idea.
ultra modern?
I think they do BTECs and all kinds of things now. But yeah, I did that. Did an apprenticeship at a place that was a manufacturing company, manufactured big heavy duty batteries and stuff, big company. Um, so that's where I pretty much started in IT. So I think I did like 8 years there in total, 7 or 8 years. And that's where I kind of started to learn my trade in proper IT, I suppose, based on experience that I'd had mostly at home, not so much at school. But
So what kind of role was that then? Was it like support type role, was it?
yeah, like help desk and sysadmin, just basic sysadmin at that point. So, but we also ran a big AS400. I think they're called I-series nowadays or whatever. But we had a few AS400s around. It was a bit like a multinational corp. So we had a few dotted around the place. I think there was one in the US, one was in our systems room down the road from me, and one was in Paris, I think. But yeah, that was like an AS400. So I'd learned a little bit of that back then. So there was like bits of COBOL, I think people were running on that. I never got heavily involved, but again, enough to be able to repeat certain things based on some guidance.
You're doing a bit of Novell.
I never did Novell. We used to have it at school, but I never did any of that. By the time I started in the workplace, it was on NT, just coming off a 3.5 onto NT4.
That's where I learnt my trade, mate, on Novell. Novell Netware 312.
Yeah, I remember my last teacher at school was our sort of step-in IT teacher as well. And he used to, I'll say, pull his hair out. He didn't have very much to begin with, but he used to pull his hair out with Novell stuff. That and kids pulling the balls out of mice and hiding them.
My I think I said this before on one of the podcasts. My computer studies teacher. We did BBC Basic and all that. That's all we
Yeah.
had. But he looked like Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits,
Okay.
and he used to come in with a headband on, like everything.
Was he the cool
Show,
one? The
yeah,
cool teacher.
and he'd he was a bit mad, a bit crazy. He used to just sit down on the front desk, one of them that was empty, and say, "Right, everyone, cast your eyes to the front." And he'd take out like a false glass eye and throw it towards the blackboard.
What?
Yeah.
This
I
in
didn't
Barnsley,
learn
was
much.
it?
Eh?
Was this in Barnsley, was it?
It was, yeah, yeah.
Come
He
Barnsley.
was a bit special. That teacher is something different. We didn't get anything learnt. He'd come in sometimes and just start talking about something for the whole like 50-minute lesson. I can't even think what topics. He just wouldn't do anything. Just talk, and then he just, all right, we're finished. Oh, jeez. Not. I mean, as a kid, you'd be like, great, I didn't do anything.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you'd be like, that was really
What was
a
that?
waste of time. What was going on? Or
Yeah.
another one, he'd go, he'd stand at the front with his bag and he'd go, "Tss, what was that? Tss." And then he'd suddenly stick his hand in the bag, pull out like a soft toy snake, and attack himself with it. And then throw it down or something, stamp on it or bang it and go, don't worry, I've sorted it.
Dear me. That
Yeah,
is random.
yeah. That's where I
Jeez.
got all my computer skills from.
Yeah.
Those
I
lessons.
tell you, my son, I've got two young lads. My eldest at school is 8. Telling him some of the stuff at school that it doesn't feel that long ago, to be honest, school, but stuff that you just couldn't do now. Like teachers clipping your hair in a ear or whatever. One of our teachers, I think he was deputy head as well as like a geography teacher. If you only he'd only do it to the lads, to be fair, but if you were misbehaving, he'd grip you by your sideburns and drag you across the class. Or he'll drag you into the head's office, which could be a fair distance, but he'd drag you by the hair on the side of your head.
Yeah. What about sports? If you forgot your kit, do you have to do it in your pants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Which pants to the Americans? I mean, it's underwear. Yeah, not your
well,
trousers.
I was all right with that because at school PE was probably my strongest subject, so I had a pretty good, I'm not going to say relationship because that like conjures up different images, but I had a pretty good, uh, you know, understanding with the teachers, and they'd go and find me some decent kit most of the time. But that
Right.
without,
Oh, you see. Yeah, sucking up to the teachers, mate.
yeah,
See
well,
what
that,
it's all about.
that cupboard had a nickname in our school, and at risk of offending anyone, it used to get called the scrubber cupboard. And that's where you'd find all the kind of stinky shorts and things
Filthy
that have been there
stuff.
for years. So get away with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Different times, and I mean, to be honest, I'm looking back now. I'm nearly hitting 40 years to when I started at secondary school.
I was going to say, you're nearly 40 years old. I've had you down for at least 60, mate.
It's not that far off, mate. Honestly, taking the mick, the way that it's flying, honest to God,
Yeah, I know
won't
your
be
name
long.
applies, doesn't it?
But oh yeah, that's it. I mean, you think it's the other day, don't you? I mean, it's like, yeah, the other week when I was at school, it was, yeah, but actually, it's quite a long time ago, and things have changed quite dramatically, really, since then. Like you say, a lot of the stuff that used to happen just it wouldn't happen anymore. Wouldn't
Yeah,
get away with it. I mean, I remember some teacher one time he'd thrown this kid across the desks because the kid was kicking. It ended up this kid was quite a bit of a challenge or whatever, But I think we'd all left the class and it had kicked off, and he ended up throwing him across the desks and all this kind of stuff, and everyone heard about it. Don't think that happens anymore.
no, school tales. I remember my brother telling me one in one of his classes, we went to the same school. This was at secondary school. Someone leaning back, you lean back on your chair and they'd always say 4 legs is better than 2, all this kind of stuff. This kid leaned back and basically fell out of the window. Just basically got up, walked back around to the front door and went and sat back down again, nice and casual.
Fell out of the window.
Yeah, loads of random stuff at school.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, so that's a shame for the kids in it this year with the school and all that. I mean, how's it been getting through all that? I mean, I know I think you've struggled at times, haven't you? It's been quite a challenge with the younger kids.
Yeah, for sure, I've struggled. I mentioned there was a slight reference earlier when we were talking about toilet roll. Um, a lot of people mean nothing to them. My wife works for a toilet roll manufacturer or general paper manufacturer. So they have obviously been running, certainly earlier on in this whole sort of scenario, they've been running at super speed trying to keep supply. So she's been working full time and the rest, and we've seen certainly a spike because of what obviously we do. We do like modern workplace type stuff and trying to enable people to use whatever Intune and cloud management gateways were flavor of the month. For Config Manager, Windows Virtual Desktop, we saw a huge spike in that. But anything around that kind of stuff, we saw a huge spike in. So we just spiked in terms of busyness, but obviously the kids were off school. So I've got an 8-year-old who's at school and then a 3-year-old who's not quite at school, but just trying to keep them entertained and do like workshops or whatever. It's just
I don't know how
challenging
you do it.
times. No. Well, we're getting to the other end of it now, where we're sort of easing out of lockdown, and certainly in the area that I live in, and I know people, if they're in different countries altogether listening to this, everyone's in a slightly different position.
Yeah.
But in this sort of area that I live in, we've been eased backwards a little bit because we've seen a bit of a spike. So it's not massively locked down now, but we've
So
just
Bolton's not one of the ones that's been added to the list, has it, of local
yeah, it is,
lockdowns?
yeah.
Or oh, is it added?
Yeah, we're in Greater Manchester theoretically, although go back you'd call it Lancashire, but I'm about 2 miles in. But actually, this particular town that I'm in is, the numbers are pretty decent. To be fair, it's just the greater region has seen a spike or an increase. It's a bit
So
frustrating.
you've got some of that lockdown stuff in effect then. Still, you
Yeah,
can't go to pubs or whatever, is it? I don't know
yeah.
what the rules are, to be honest.
I think pubs are all right. You're exactly right, though. It's so hard to keep
It's
up on what
impossible, isn't it?
changes are. I've no idea. I rely on my kid because he watches news round and he tells me what the latest is. So yeah,
Brilliant.
we've
John
still
Craven.
restrictions in, but yeah.
John Craven's probably before your time in news round, isn't he?
No, I remember John Craven. John Craven's news round. I still refer to it now. Proper dad jokes with that one.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I tried to do with the last presentation when it was Rob and Paul's news round at the last W mug. I
Yeah,
was
I
going to
remember
have
that.
the music and everything. I was going to bring in a tacky jumper, but never got around to it. Yeah. So is he due to go back to school then?
He's going back in 2 weeks. So yeah, they've brought them back a week earlier, just because they've had so much time off. But they're giving him a week back next year for his school, and each school's a little different. But yeah, he's supposed to go back in a couple of weeks, and they've just had to make a few changes, like um, different start times. So they split people up. I think they've just done it by surname, to be honest. But
Oh, they're staggering it, are they?
yeah, they're just staggering it. So I don't think he's realised he's got to go in half an hour earlier now, which
Have you told him?
it's going to be a huge pain for that lad.
Jeez.
But
Get him to broadcast it on news round. He'll come and tell you.
yeah, but I mean, he does get to finish half an hour earlier than usual as
Well,
well.
that's all right. Then that's the cherry on the cake, isn't it?
Yeah, so they're just staggering up. So they've staggered starts and breaks and lunch and finish and that kind of stuff.
God, I remember back in the day. This is at secondary school. They did a vote, and they let the kids vote on whether they should amend the school day, and it involved us having slightly less kind of first break or whatever, maybe slightly less time at lunchtime to finish up at like 3:10 rather than 4 o'clock.
Nice.
You can imagine which one won, which vote won, can't you? Right, 3:10, we're off. It's like, what a crazy method. Ask the kids. I'm sure they must have consulted the parents. I don't remember this, but it did change anyway, which is great. It's like, yeah, lovely, 50 minutes less.
Can't see it going any other
Fantastic.
way, really, can you?
Yeah. So, sweeten the deal with him and say, look, you're finishing half an hour earlier. It's all good. Even though he doesn't realise maybe he's actually in the same amount of time, ultimately. Did he have to go in for like a week before the end of the school year then? Did they do any of that?
No, nothing. No, he finished. I think 23rd of March sticks in my mind because it's a day before my birthday. I remember it was like my birthday and it all locked down one day before. So that wasn't ideal. But yeah, he's not been in at all. So they started doing Teams calls a little bit later. But they had maybe 4 weeks of Teams calls, just a couple of times a week, 2 or 3 times maybe in a week. But yeah,
I
other
mean,
than
for the
that,
kids, is he loving having time off or is he sick of it now, wants to go back and do something?
he's enjoying it. He likes playing. He's not, massively into sitting down doing work. He likes reading and stuff, but if you get him to sit down and try and do some work, you've got to catch him in the right mood. But he loves just playing. So when he goes to my mum's quite a bit, my mum looks after the kids quite a lot to enable us to do the work basically. So yeah, he's very kind of imaginative in that respect. So he likes play.
So when they go back, then what's it going to be like? You reckon? Because it's you know what it's like when you have a couple of weeks off work to go on holiday, and you've got to you got to get back into it. It's like, oh god, here we go. You know, imagine the 5, 6 months off school.
Yeah, we're just in the top process of getting all these uniforms and all that kind of stuff, usual
Oh
parent
yeah.
stuff. Getting all that stuff out of the way. Yeah, I guess you forget. I think your kids are a little bit older than mine, aren't they? But it's all that. I think he's going school shoe shopping tomorrow, which
That's
is
the killer. That don't leave that one to the end. Jeez, it's horrible, isn't it? If you go on that final Sunday, jeez, we go down John Lewis in Bluewater, and that last Sunday was always a killer. You're number 30 in the queue.
I know. Yeah, I do wonder. You get people in other countries that are listening to this kind of stuff. They're thinking, "What the hell?" Because I think, like in the US, don't they not? They don't wear a uniform in a lot of schools. Is that right? I think so. I
I don't
guess
know.
I
No
don't know.
idea, to
Someone
be
let us
honest.
know. I'm sure we're enough Americans that someone can comment. But
They get all the. Do they have like High School Musical? They have the sweater, do they? Maybe with like a
uh,
tiger on it
yeah,
and a
maybe
badge.
it's big
Don't
big
know.
on sports in the US, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my second boy, so he's going off to college in Bedfordshire in September. He's going to be boarding a few nights,
Okay.
and he's doing like it's like an outdoor adventure type course for stuff like you learn about kayaking and
Nice.
mountaineering and all this stuff. And my wife took him down to get some equipment for it. So we're not. He doesn't have to have a uniform as such because it's a sixth form, yeah. But although some sixth forms, like my eldest, he had to wear a suit and a tie through the whole of his sixth form.
Wow.
Um, yeah, just like scraggy jumper and a pair of jeans when I went.
Yeah, yeah, same.
Mind you, he's probably going to come out better than I did in life. That's the way it goes.
Well, anyway,
Comparisons are.
that's the idea, isn't it?
That's the idea.
Go one better
Um,
every
but
generation.
yeah, she took him down today to get um, stuff like they have to get wetsuits and all this kind of stuff. And she says, well, the this particular top itself was £80. I was like, £80? What? Just for that? The old northern part of me kicking in, How much did all this come to? It said it was going to be £200 on the application form. No, the socks were £200.
Jeez.
Like,
Yeah, no.
jeez.
Sounds like me, to be fair. That's my childhood pretty much. So yeah, it sounds like me. I think if I win the lottery, I'll still be like that. How much?
Yeah,
That's me.
I know. We need to have something in for food, love. Keep something back to pay the bills.
Yeah, we're painting a really bad picture now, but yeah, that's
I mean, for this college, I mean, they have to do the. We just got to get there. Yeah, so it'll stay, and then they've got this shuttle bus that goes from the station. There's various places all around Bedfordshire they pick up from, but you've got to get there for a certain time. But it
yeah,
means he's got to go through London and whatever on the train, and it's like, well,
yeah.
is
Because
is that worth it?
you're a reasonable distance, aren't you, from Bedfordshire?
It's a good couple of hours, really. So it may be part of my routine on a Monday morning to. It's probably going to be done once, and I'll probably go right. Get the train, mate. I've got to do the M25 and the A1
Yeah,
on a Monday morning.
lucky you.
Test it out. Yeah, yeah. But it's the thing is with kids. It's the minute we're getting them to school and that. Um, are they going to be getting public transport? Are they going to be? The roads are definitely busier in London since the lockdown eased.
Yeah,
Traffic's horrific. So where going back to cycling again, that whole this is the future. Will walking and cycling. No, everyone's just got back in their cars. I don't know what it's like round your way, because I mean, round the M56 and M60, it's ridiculous in the morning, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
horrible.
it is really ridiculous, and you and I both know you've lived around there years ago, but we neither of us are a stranger to a commute. You doing the sort of the cycle train and whatever, and me doing the long distance stuff a lot of the time. But yeah, Manchester's particularly bad. I mean, as I
But I
travel all
mean,
over
do
the
you know if
place.
it's any worse since lockdown?
I think probably it's not worse. It's probably slightly better. I've done it a few times for various little bits of reasons, but it seems a little bit better still. But I know people are still working from home quite a lot around this area, certainly around here. But I mean, you're based around London, and a lot of people who work in London are not living in London, so there's a huge commuter kind of thing. But in Manchester, it's similar, but not quite so much. It's obviously a much smaller city.
Yeah, it's been horrible around here. I mean, lockdown was lovely when there was no traffic. It was brilliant. I enjoyed that. Getting places quickly. I could get to Barnard Castle and get my eyes tested in a shot.
Just check your eyes.
But yeah, you can check him out. I mean, I did come up to Yorkshire to visit my mum, and that was absolutely lovely drive up. Up the A1, M18, whatever, up to Chef, in no time whatsoever, and it was just nice. And I did it there and back in a day.
Nice.
Um, and I didn't have to worry. I'm going to get stuck in this and that. Just I did a surprise visit.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just I don't know what it's going to be like when we come to do the school thing, because I mean, my kids don't want to get on public transport. Um,
You can't blame them, can you? Really?
Not really. So my daughter's like a few miles down the road. She could possibly cycle, but she's been so used to being shuttled around in the past that she'll want that to continue. But then I've got possibly doing this thing to Bedfordshire twice a week, Monday and a Friday. So it's going to be interesting. I'll be like I said, I'll be sick of it after the first week. But like never again, because it's the worst time. I try and get there as early as possible, but you're doing M25 during rush hour, and that's just horrible. That is,
Yeah,
as
it is.
Chris Rea said, it's the road to hell.
Especially that bit near Heathrow.
Oh yeah, I won't be doing that bit, thank God. But it's still Blackwall Tunnel. Have you ever been through that?
Yeah, I've been through that. In fact, I had some pictures pop up, Facebook memories the other day.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I had a job down there, and I was not a million miles from you. There's a hotel near the arena, the O2 Arena.
yeah.
And I was driving
What, the
from there.
Holiday Inn was it?
Yeah, it was a Holiday Inn at just near the O2 Arena.
Did you stay there?
Yeah, I stayed there for a little while, and the reason it popped up is because I woke up one morning, opened the curtains, looked at the car park. It was empty bar my car and the one that had parked right up to my driver's door, but the whole car park was empty.
The restaurant underneath it got shut down at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah, rats infestation.
nice,
Twice they got caught out with it. Yeah,
nice.
they got fined quite a lot of money for that actually, but different owners now. So I'm sure they've well, no one's really eating out anymore, are they? So, or are we? Eat out to help out.
I've not even managed to get in anywhere on that yet. Me and the missus tried going once, and there was a huge queue outside the door just to get in the place. So that was the end of that.
What, McDonald's was it?
I
Would
think
you
we
go somewhere posh for it?
no, I think we just went home. It's rare that we get sort of child free time really,
Oh,
because
this is it.
but no, we've not managed to do any of that. I don't think we had a bit of a week away a few weeks ago in Scotland, which is an awesome place. If people have never been to Scotland, go. Don't overflood
Would
it.
you go up into the Highlands? Did you?
We went into the Trossachs. It's Loch Lomond and the Trossachs is the kind of, I guess, national park. So we were just on the edge of the Trossachs near. I think I might have put one picture up as a comment on my Twitter. We were at a place called Lake Menteith. It's the only lake in Scotland, as I understand, and I'm sure someone might correct me if that's not right. But yeah, it was awesome.
Menteith.
Lake Menteith, yeah, Menteith.
I'm just thinking of men with teeth now. Menteith.
Yeah, well, I always started pronouncing it as Menteith, but
All right. That's the
seemingly it's
posh way of saying it. Yeah.
yeah, Menteith. It was an awesome place.
Is this where because you did a picture of you on a boat? Was that?
Did I do a picture of me? Yeah,
I
that'd
don't
be
know.
it.
It was on Twitter. Was that part of the holiday?
Yeah,
Have you got a camper van or something?
I've got a camper van. Yeah, I converted a van into a camper. So
Oh yeah, self conversion type thing.
self
Then yeah.
conversion. Yeah, I mean, I didn't make everything nut and bolt, but I bought parts, built it up. Bar.
So is that what you went in? Is it? Did you go?
Yeah, we went up there, and we didn't stay in it, but we went up there in it because you can do pretty good day trips in that van. But yeah, I did most of the work on that myself, bar the roof. So I got a pop top roof where it's quite it's quite a thing, a trust thing to give someone the van that you just spent a lot of money on, and then let them cut a big hole in the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah, spend a
it's
lot of
got to be
time.
done right, I suppose, if it's a roof as well, and you don't want it leaking.
Yeah, absolutely. There's you. I mean, if you're not sort of into the whole van scene or camper van or VW scene or whatever, then you've no idea how many different kind of manufacturers there are of these types of things and conversions of these sort of things are out there. There's tons.
Yeah, yeah. So can you sleep in it then in the
Yeah.
conversion?
So I got the roof because obviously the kids, we can get two kids in the roof, and then in the back we've got seats which are called. It's called a rock and roll seat is the proper name, I suppose, but basically a seat with belts that folds down into a bed effectively.
So you can just do a bit of touring and not worry
Yeah.
about getting accommodation effectively. Yeah.
Well, you can and you can't. So theoretically, in England and Wales, it's not allowed to sleep in it overnight anywhere.
Is it not? Oh
No,
right.
in Scotland it is. I think it's referred to as wild camping. But certainly at the moment, I know there's a lot of people doing it. There's a big motorhome culture in the UK, it seems, and I had no idea until I started sort of learning about this. There's a huge motorhome culture, but these are not little camper vans. These are like big, like what you might call an RV or something. And we tend to get a lot of people that have either just had enough of general run of the mill life, give it all up, bought a van, or maybe retirees who've bought a van and they'll just go driving around for weeks on end and sleep wherever, sleep in the van wherever they can park it. But I know I was reading something either today or yesterday, I can't remember. In certain parts of Scotland, they're getting pretty fed up of it because they're just filling car parks pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Summit. If it was me, I'd be. I won't be in Scotland. I'd be abroad getting the heat.
Yeah, well, it's you can do. I've got some friends that are over in France now. They timed that pretty badly. Obviously, it wasn't intentional. A couple of days after they went, they announced, you've gone out self isolate when you come back for 14 days. So, they're just cracking on, getting on with that.
Yeah, I was supposed to be taking my eldest to Germany,
Yeah,
dropping him off. He's got his third year out in Germany and uni, and just going to take him over, take some bits, stay overnight, come back really, and
no,
no, not happening now.
no. I've done a few stupid trips like that. Not stupid trips, but I don't mind a little jaunt away. I went in March to Switzerland, to Geneva with my son. It was supposed to be the Geneva Motor Show, and I booked it last year, but it all got cancelled, of course. But all the flights were still on, and the hotel was paid, so we went just for a day out in Geneva and came home again.
Did you?
Yeah, why
I had
not?
a disaster in Geneva last year
Yeah,
on holiday. We took a day trip out. We were staying in the French Alps, and we took a day trip to Geneva, which, when you drive through the Alps, takes about 3 hours, but actually took us about 5 or 6 to get there. And we just didn't realise that it would completely cane our phone as well, because it's not part of the roam. It's not part of EU, is it?
right, yeah.
So we'd run out of credits. Didn't know if we'd got enough cash on the little card thing that keeps all your cash on and all that, and then couldn't actually ring through to find out. We separated briefly, the little group of us that were there, and lost contact with each other. We couldn't ring up to find out where we were because we didn't have any phones, any data or anything. Managed to get Wi-Fi at the Starbucks, and then my phone battery died.
Nice.
So, and it was my wife's birthday treat, and it was just a disaster of a day that ended up,
Okay.
I think, with a couple of us going on a big wheel. There's that little wheel near the lake. Did you see that?
I don't know if it was there when I went.
Yeah, you missed out. That's the only good thing we saw. And we pretty much were there for about 2 hours before we decided to go home, back to the Alps, and then drove for about another 4 hours. It was terrible. I'm
Yeah,
sure Geneva's lovely, but
yeah,
it
it
was a
seems
bit
to
of a
be.
disaster.
We got around it quite well. Well, I did another stupid jaunt a few years ago. You mentioned bikes earlier and getting bikes. There was a bit, we were looking for my son his first bike, which was like balance bikes. They
Oh
don't,
yeah,
they don't have pedals. But then the thing seems to be tight norther and all that. Well, if I'm going to buy one with a balance bike, with no pedals, and then a few years later I've got to get one with pedals, do they not do one where you can attach and detach the pedals? So
makes sense.
yes, basically yes, but you can't get them in the UK. Is the long and short of it. There's a company called Decathlon, which I'm sure you've heard of, but there's a few in
Yes.
the UK, but they just didn't have them in the UK, but they did in France.
Yep. But you went to
So
Decathlon in France
I went to Decathlon in Calais, yeah, and
just to get this bike with
just to get
pedals.
this bike. So
We've
me,
got a Decathlon round the corner, mate.
we have, but they don't do them in this country. They do
Oh,
similar
sorry.
ones, but
Right.
not
Yeah.
the
Sorry.
same.
Yeah.
But I mean, looking at it from a design perspective, it's brilliant. The whole like chain and cassette comes off. Everything just comes off, and you just bolt it on when you want to put it back on again. It's really good, clever at design. But yeah, you know me. I travel around quite a lot, but before all
Travel
that.
to Calais to save yourself some
So
money,
yeah, I was
which you
due to
spent
be
on the
working in
petrol.
London, and London's not very far from like the coast. So on a
Yeah. No, we've done a couple of day trips to France, just popping over
Yeah, well, I just carried
north
on
coast
from
of
Friday
France.
job. Went to Calais, picked it up first thing Saturday morning, and then drove all the way home, which is probably I don't know
That's a bit of a
300
journey.
miles, just shy of 300 miles for the
Yeah.
people familiar.
Going to Calais just to go to Decathlon. That's brilliant. Just,
Yeah,
could they not do shop online and I suppose it would send it out for delivery?
they wouldn't send it over the water.
What?
So I
But you
mean,
cannot buy these in England. You must come to us.
yeah, it was good. So I was like there sending emails with Google Translate, hoping it made any kind of sense in French because my French is okay, but nothing that I could put full sentences together. So yeah, got all that ordered. But yeah, it was a good do. I enjoyed
Yeah, we went to the Decathlon in the French Alps to get a couple of bits when we were camping. But you feel at home then, don't you? You get into a Decathlon, familiarity.
It's a
Yeah.
French
Oh,
company,
yeah.
isn't it?
It is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's where everyone's buying the bike. Well, yeah, because you can't get the bikes, like I was saying earlier.
Yeah, I've got another stupid jaunt for you as well. You might like this one. I don't know if I've
Go
ever
on then.
told you this one. Um, you remember TechEd, the event that doesn't exist anymore, Microsoft TechEd? Some years ago, I'm trying to think what year it would have been, maybe 2013, 14, something like that. I basically entered a competition with TechNet UK, Microsoft TechNet, a pretty good UK team at the time. Shout out to all those guys. And I basically, I, I, I'd basically forgot I'd even entered this competition and booked a holiday, which just so happened to be at the same time. And then a couple of weeks before I was due to go, I got an email saying I'd won some tickets to go to TechEd in Madrid, I think it was, Spain. And I really, really wanted to go, but I'd also booked this bloody holiday. So yeah, again, long story short, I ended up flying out on a holiday, but my mum came with us on that particular holiday. So a couple of days in, I then got a flight out of Gran Canaria back to Madrid. Went to TechEd for 1 day, 1 night, and then most of the next day, and then flew back to Gran Canaria and had the rest of my holiday.
Bloody hell. Why not? You got your free ticket. Well, you got your free ticket to TechEd.
I managed to get a job out of that as well.
Bonus.
Yeah, I didn't know at the time, but I met my future employer, and yeah, ended up getting it.
Shame you couldn't have got something similar from picking up the bike in Calais. Got a decathlon job.
Oh well, don't get me wrong, I did go to Carrefour and fill the boot up.
Oh, of course you do. Get your booze in.
Absolutely.
Get your booze. Get your booze run done while you're there. Anyway, Peter, we've run out of time.
Have you?
I'm sorry to say. No, it's been a real laugh chatting to you tonight. I didn't ask you anything about what I was going to ask you about.
We just ended up talking, didn't we?
Yeah, I didn't actually have anything written down to ask you anyway, so it's all right. Actually, so shall I say what my list was?
Go on then. Yeah, let's.
Uh,
I'll give you a quick fire.
Bolton is the
Bolton.
first one. Bolton,
Yeah,
I've got Bolton written down. That's
it's a
one.
hotbed of talent, Bolton.
Yeah. Then I've got University of Bolton written
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
I've just been on your LinkedIn. You'll see if you look at your LinkedIn views, it was me. IT since 2000.
yeah. 20 years. I realised the other
20
week.
years.
20 years in a couple
Sure.
of months.
Wow.
That makes me
Need
feel old.
to have a party to celebrate that one. 20 years in the biz.
20 years. Yeah.
Book writing.
Book
You
writing.
wrote a book. Yeah.
I did. I wrote
We ain't
the
got time to talk about it now, but you can promote it if you want.
yeah the vast majority of a book. I got Jerry to help me out with the last little bit. I struggled a little bit. I will just add though, and I know you're taking time. If it's still got a lot of valid content, troubleshooting Config Manager. It was based around 2012 stuff just before Current Branch came out. But if you buy it, every bit of money that I make off of that, I give to charity. So it's worth a buy anyway.
Yes. Well, I was going to cut it out that you're promoting your book a minute ago, but I can't now.
Yeah,
Now you're better now. I was going to
I
cut it
still
out.
get a little bit from it, and I still give it all to charity.
Yeah. So, where that's Pact Publishing, isn't it? That is
Yeah,
went
it's
through
packed.
them. Is it?
It's
Yeah.
packed, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Packed. But it's anywhere. Any book retailers, they're on Amazon. They're on all the rest of them as well.
Yeah. Packed full of content, mate. See what I did there?
Nice.
Brilliant. It's a tacky joke. Um,
Wouldn't it?
so I was going to talk about the book writing. We've got time. Don't worry about it, because me and Chris Roberts ended up talking forever. The process of book writing. So how long does that take you then?
So for me, it took me quite a while. I had stuff happening at home which tended to delay me, which is the whole reason why I gave the money to charity at the time, and I got some assistance from Jerry to get me over the line with that one. But when you set out, you define what the book's going to look like, as in what the chapters are going to be, what kind of contents are going to be. You design it all, if you like, and then they give you certainly in my case, I know they don't all work the same. They gave me a kind of estimated page count that we want to be at, and then split it up per chapter, and then work out like if you like a project plan, if you like. But basically, you're looking at like 2 pages a day every day, with maybe a couple of days break in between, something like that. So over the space of 10, 12 chapters or something, it can feel pretty intense, but
And are you sort of putting scenarios in place and testing them as well and writing about
yeah,
them? Do you do a bit of that?
I was setting up lab scenarios. So things like did like a CAS. So I didn't really have a CAS in lab. So I set a CAS up with loads of VMs and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it takes a bit of time to get all those scenarios set up as well, just so you can get the screenshots and prove it and whatever. And I was doing that around the day job as well, so sat in hotels at night and on trains and whatever. So it's quite an effort in some respects.
Kudos to you, mate, because I've been approached a couple of times. I've never done it, and I think you said you wanted to do it just because you wanted to kind of do that. It's kind of tick it off a list kind of thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not something that I ever set out to do, as I say. With a lot of other stuff, it just came along, the opportunity, and I thought, well, why the hell not? If someone else can do this, then I'll give this a go too.
And like you say, yours is quite good because it's still relevant, isn't it? Like you say. Whereas if you're kind of digging into, because that's a problem now, things move so fast. How relevant are books these days? And that's why I've never really dipped into doing that. So I've got the Config Manager Unleashed, I think it is the orange one that came
Yeah,
out a few years ago.
yeah,
I think Jerry was involved in that a little bit as well. And that's a great reference book. And I've got your book as well, I think in PDF. I bought it,
okay,
and
nice, thank you.
yeah, it's got relevant bits in it, but then some of the other books age very quickly. Especially my NT 3.51 book. It's absolutely bloody useless now.
It's good at raising your monitor. That'll do.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
But no, you're
Yeah.
right. It's some of that I did think about when I kind of decided, all right, I'll have a go at this. But still, it's something in it. You can put it down as I did that. And as I say, the money is going to somewhere that's good for me. So
No, that's pretty decent. So we can promote that. We have promoted that. So check it out. What's the name of it again, Peter?
it's just troubleshooting configuration manager. It's got my name and Jerry's name on it. There you go. It's about 250 pages, and you can get it through all kinds of deals. Look out for cheap deals with packs. You can get them for like $5 or something.
Yeah, definitely. And then I wrote down blogs, which I put more than patches. It's morethanpatches.com, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where I'm writing my blogs. As I say, I started writing I've had a few different blogs over time, but never, you know what it's like. You start writing a blog and then you lose interest or you lose ideas of what to write about. So yeah, I did that one a few years ago and just kind of consolidated stuff that I'd written over the past however many years, and I've managed to just about keep it going. Again, it's the same scenario as anyone else, work-life kind of balance.
Finding the time. Yeah, totally. And so, if anyone wants to get in touch on the old socials, what's your details, Pete?
So yeah, I mean, you generally find me on Twitter, pretty regular. So at Peter Egerton, or that's Egerton. Say it how you want. I've heard it said in many different ways over the years. But yeah, Peter Egerton is just Twitter's probably the best place to get me, to be honest. Obviously, if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, then I'm on there too.
Yeah, I've never seen so many Egertons in my life since I've known you. I never knew
Yeah,
the word. Yeah,
there's a
got
couple
the
of
actor, haven't
famouses
we?
as well now.
Couple of what?
A couple of famouses as well. A couple of famous Egertons besides
Yeah,
myself.
the actor guy, and he played Elton John. I
Yeah,
can't remember what his name is.
Taron Egerton. Yeah, I'm sure we're all related to Lord Egerton of Cheshire at some point in time.
I'm not.
No, I mean all the Egertons. I'm sure we all relate back.
Have you been to Winstanley Hall in Wigan, mate?
Yeah, of course they have. Yeah, there's a whole area called Winstanley.
Is there?
I'm down the road. I'm down the road from Wigan, next town.
Right. I've never been to Winstanley Hall. Is it as grand as I imagine it to be?
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. There's a lot of kind of old houses knocking around the place.
Yeah. So there's a place called Winstanley as well, then, is there?
Yeah, there's an area of the town called Winstanley.
It's weird, isn't it?
Right, I go. Do you know Three Sisters Racetrack is near there? I think it's not quite there, but
What's
yeah,
that?
it's a racing track. You can do like go kart racing and Ferrari driving and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Winstanley. It's the name
Yeah,
of a place. Brilliant. So the Egerton Drive we've got in Greenwich.
yeah. There's an Egerton Crescent in London as well, which for a time was the most expensive street in England, or it might have been Britain.
But not on Monopoly. That's
No, it's
Mayfair.
not a Monopoly. No, it's a little kind of Crescent, but it's
Right. Was it Kensington way, did you say?
yeah, I think
That
it
way.
is. Yeah,
Yeah. It's going to be in it.
yeah. I think once
Crazy
upon a time,
prices
he
round there.
literally stood outside that somewhere.
I'm gonna have to come to Winstanley now and point at a sign or something, aren't I? As you do when
Yeah,
you see something like that. And I think there's a like maybe even in Kent there's an Egerton.
yeah. I think there is. There's an area of Bolton in the town that I live called Egerton, and I've never lived there, and I probably should do at some point in my life. I've lived in a lot of
Peter
areas.
Egerton of Egerton here.
Yeah,
That's what you have to say on the phone to people.
yeah. I mean, I've some of my uncles, my grandparents, used to be called Lloyd, Lloyd, Lloyd. And there's a few tales of them. I think my one of my uncles ringing in sick once, and they asked him his name, and he said he was Lord Egerton, and they just thought he was talking absolute crap and hung up on him. So then wondered why he didn't turn up to work the next day. He told him he'd rang in sick, and no one believed him.
Brilliant.
Lloyd Egerton.
Yeah, so I do now. We do know how to pronounce your last name now. Egerton. That's the way.
That's the way.
And
It matters not too much though. I've heard
I
them all.
just see him all the bloody time now. So there's another Egerton.
Yeah,
Can't escape the damn name. It's imprinted on my brain now every time. Like I say, just wandering through Kent. I'm sure it was Kent, somewhere like that. Saw a sign Egerton. I was like, Jesus,
yeah.
another
Well,
one.
there's a Leeds Castle down there as well,
There
which
is
is
a Leeds
just
Castle
find
down
random when I
there.
drive past that.
Yeah, near Maidstone,
Yeah, which is
not
very
near
random.
Leeds.
Like what,
Yeah,
200 plus miles away from Leeds.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the reason behind that. It's probably a Maidstone castle in Leeds.
Maybe
They just swapped.
just swap names.
Yeah, swapped it around. There's a Barnsley in Gloucestershire,
Yeah.
and my parents went to it, and they treat you like, neighbours almost. Oh, we're from the other Barnsley. Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, we can tell with that daft accent you've got. That's what the locals say.
Yeah.
Anyway, Peter, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you tonight, mate. I'm sure we've had most people turn off. They don't understand a bloody word we're talking about. We'll try and get some on the YouTube thing that I do. I'll try and transcribe it for people so they can see,
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate
translate
that.
the accents at times when we've
Yeah,
slipped
people
into,
struggle with that. They have done over the years.
well, yeah, when we've said they got all moist. That's
Yeah.
meaningless to most people.
This is my telephone voice as well. So
Are you pushing it up?
yeah,
Yeah.
washing it up.
See, I've had to live under this false thing for years while I've been in London that I talk posh like this.
Yeah, this pretend southerner.
Pretend, yeah. Hello. Paul from Yorkshire here. How are we getting on, everyone? Lovely. Yeah, I can do a good imitation of Cockneys and stuff now. I've lived down here so long, and when I sort of slip back into my Yorkshire accent when I go home, it just sounds really false. I can actually do a Cockney better than I can do a Northerner. What's all
Oh,
that about?
you've been away too long, mate.
It's like, all right, mate. That's not my good Cockney. That's quite lame. Anyway, right, we'll wrap up
Before you
on
get in
that
trouble.
utterly crap Cockney impression.
Yep.
And as I say, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. We didn't talk about anything that I wanted to talk about tonight, but that's great. Don't worry about it.
The idea.
We'll re-record it another time and we'll do it properly.
Thank you very
Joking.
much for having me. It's been great to speak to you. Hopefully we'll catch up in person at some point soon. Preferably over a pint somewhere. That'd be cool.
Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. Thanks ever so much.
See you later.